Rob Taylor from Blathering On and On.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Well, hello from Bandon, from Coos Bay to Coos County and Oregon and beyond. I want to thank all of you who are joining me. Welcome to another episode of the Rob Taylor Report. I think I got a very incredible good guest for you today. It's Dr. Bob Zybach, and we're going to be discussing the Elliot Forest, and I'm going to bring him on here in just a second, and we're going to be talking about all the different aspects of the forest, and I made sure and scheduled the whole hour for him, and if we need a little extra time, we can give him a little extra time. It's not a big deal, and hopefully he's up for the conversation. So there is no playing of Where's 3H Tree Service today. Yep, 3H Tree Service. They couldn't do it today, so we'll do it next week. Next week's grand prize will be $100. It's going to be another exciting game of that. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Dr. Bob Zybach. And Dr. Bob Zybach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good deal. And how are you doing today?
Fine now that I just figured out StreamYard. But I'm getting an echo when I talk.
Are you getting an echo? Because I'm not hearing an echo on my side.
Okay, good.
Do you have a camera, or you just?
I've got a camera. I've been setting. Let's see.
Oh, we lost him. That happens. I love live podcasts. Streaming live. If we weren't streaming live, what would we be? Streaming dead? That wouldn't be fun. Some of us might be doing it from hell. But no, we're going to get Dr. Bob Zybach back on. He's probably having some technical difficulties. And I hope everyone can hear my sound. If you're out there and you're on Facebook and you're listening to this, I hope you hear this clearly. Last week, I had one of those updates happen just about 5 minutes before the show, and the update for my computer completely switched around the default settings for the microphone. And so I wasn't in stereo. And of course, I got to be in stereo. So it was kind of sad that last week's sound didn't go too well, because the guests were great. We had some really good guests on. We covered some really great subject. We talked to a candidate, Todd Vaughn, and we talked to Donna Kreitzberg, who is dealing with that school choice issue, which I highly recommend you all go and get that petition and get signed on. But yeah, let's see. I got one comment. Let's see. So far, we can hear you. Hey, that's a good thing, Mr. Oregon Outlaw 2000. We're waiting right now for Dr. Bob Zybach to get back on the screen here. He's having some technical difficulties. Sometimes that happens when you're live streaming, and there's a lot of things going on. And I think I have him back on. How you doing?
Is it showing my picture now?
It's not showing you. It was at the very beginning. I saw it for a brief second, and then all of a sudden it cut back off.
I've got to tell you, I hate it, and I've only used it for 10 minutes. I can't make the picture come on, and my voice goes.
Do you have a settings in the StreamYard screen that you're looking at? It should be at the bottom. It should say settings.
Yeah.
Okay, click on settings and go to video. And on your video, it should give you a choice of cameras. Make sure the right camera has been picked.
Let's try that one. They did have me put in a new camera. Can you hear me now? That one.
I don't know how many cameras you have. See, it was almost there. Something almost happened.
It says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you. It says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you. Okay,
because I'm going to put up some pictures of the Elliot Forest, so you should be able to see that. Can you see the screen where I'm speaking into the microphone?
I can see you and
you there, Bob?
Yep. Let's see. Boy,
It's coming and going. It's like you're skipping.
Yeah, there's something with. I wish we were using Zoom. This is giving me all using Zoom.
I apologize.
This is giving me all kinds of problems. It says I'm in the show. I haven't hit the stop camera. It says I'm in the show.
All right. Well, we can hear you.
Haven't hit the stop camera.
Oh, there you go. Hey, the camera isn't working, but now we're getting a better picture from you, so that's good. Are you hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you fine. And then my voice comes in delayed, and then my voice comes in delayed with the bad echo, and I can't see my picture come on. Says press start. Control. This is odd. It's got a icon with the backward wording. I'm not sure how to fix this.
Well, go back to that settings, and on settings, if you'll look at the it says camera. It'll say camera. It'll say camera resolution, and it'll say mirror my camera. And if that's been clicked, that's why your picture is backwards.
No,
that picture is gone now.
Boy.
And then there's also an audio selector. You can push the audio selector, and that should help you out. I should have had you on here 30 minutes early, and we.
That's true. We should have tried it. Let's see.
Well, I can hear you fine. Let's just go with it.
Okay, we'll do that, and we'll do that, and let's see. Okay, let's just go with that.
So you're a writer, a researcher.
Okay, let's just go with that.
You got it. So you're a writer, you're a researcher, you're a photographer. I'm reading here from the list, and you're also you have a PhD in environmental science. That to me is very impressive that you've done this. That you're able to speak on the Elliot Forest and many different environmental issues with a lot of credibility. How long have you been studying the Elliot Forest itself?
The wildfire history I started in the late 1980s with Harry Phillips, right before he retired. And then about I did a really serious report on the fire on the Elliot.
And what is one of your favorite parts of the Elliot Forest? Because I know this is a huge forest, and I've got a question about that too. Is Golden and Silver Falls part of Elliot Forest? Because we were arguing that the other night, and I'm not sure if they're actually part of the Elliot Forest.
No, the old county road that goes through Golden Falls turns into the Elliot. Above the falls, but no, the falls are just outside. The falls are the Douglas Creek, and the headwaters are very curve, which is my favorite part of the Elliot.
Nice. So one of the things that I use often, and I've been following you for a while, you probably don't realize how many people actually use some of the things that you write about and speak on. One of the things that I have used quite often is that there was a Senate Bill 1546, that came out, and I believe it was in 21 or 22 legislative session, and it was the bill that turned the forest into a research forest. And you yourself, hey Bob, you're on the air.
I flipped another switch.
I don't know what you did, but it was the right switch.
I lost my background though.
Well, that's good. I'm in the lead line bunkers over here in Bandon, so it's my background is an old poster of the show, so I don't feel bad. But I was like I was saying, I read a lot of your stuff, and I use it when I'm debating different people and talking to them about the Elliot Forest and about some of the reasons why we need to go back to the situation where it was profitable for the Common School Fund, because that's what it was originally supposed to do. In fact, I believe when the Elliot Forest was created, wasn't that the intention the whole time, to create a state forest that actually funded the schools?
That was the entire intent. In 1930, scattered school fund properties were allocated to the Coos and Department of Interior to create a forest specifically dedicated to the Common School Fund.
Why was the Department of Interior involved?
BLM land, the ONC land are part of it.
Okay, and now, so the Elliot Forest has been completely taken out of the ONC laws. I take it out of the ONC compact that they have with the counties. The Elliot Forest is completely out of that, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been since 1930.
And, this is incredible history when people go back and look at this, because I don't know how many people know this, but the federal government owns 54% of the state of Oregon. And there's many different reasons for it. And most of the fault of that is the state of Oregon, not the federal government in many ways, because we just wanted to not have to pay for the management of a lot of this land. And so how did what did the legislatures, why were they interested in getting that out of the ONC? Because the ONC was supposed to provide for the counties, and they wanted it, I guess, to provide for the schools. But what was their whole intent of it? Was it supposed to be for recreation only, timber only? What was research? What was the whole idea of doing that for us?
Well, in 1930, the ONC Act wasn't in place until 1937. So the whole intent was to change, exchange property of similar value that were scattered in consolidate the single forest. So the consolidation was land exchange rather than anything of that nature. And it meets Common School Fund laws in place in 1859.
And now it's been completely changed thanks to SB 1546. And I got your response here when you wrote a response to that bill in opposition to it. And it says, let me read the first sentence because I love this first sentence. It says, "Thank you for this opportunity to submit our strong opposition to this costly boondoggle." I mean, right off the bat, I'm with you, man. I mean, as soon as I read that, I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. But let me get to the two last paragraphs, because I think the two last paragraphs are the most important of your response to 1546. It says, "Instead, the state land board is proposing a sacrifice of 400 local jobs in difference to a few lawyers, a handful of college researchers and staff, and some part-time projects, all while creating a growing and nearly certain wildlife risk to local communities and to forest wildlife, with no plans to even harvest the resulting snags. Why this costly exercise needs to end before it becomes even worse. We strongly request that the management of the Elliot Forest be put back into the hands of the Oregon Department of Forestry, with the mandate that the State Land Board carry out its fiduciary responsibilities as trustees of the common school lands and do what is right for our children. This boondoggle," and you use the word twice in this response, I love it, "needs to stop before more damage is done and more taxpayers' dollars are wasted, in our opinion." So you were strongly opposed to 1546.
Yeah. In fact, I wrote a article saying Elliot State boondoggle, the easy plan alternative more than 4 years ago. And that was a recent new article that was a report of boondoggle. If you look it up, exactly what was happening. And it was very clear that we've had the environmental organization that have created this problem, and has caused a great amount of locally needed jobs, and it also has cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
And it's going to continue to cost our schools hundreds of millions of dollars if this doesn't turn around. And right now you have OSU, which was supposed to be part of the management plan, has pulled out since the HCP was introduced. And could you explain what the Habitat Conservation Plan is and why Oregon State University decided to pull out of that whole scheme?
The HCP is a racket. It's a way for computer gamers working for the government, paid by the taxpayers, to model supposed wildlife habitat. And it's a joke. It's been going on in Elliot since 1994. For 30 years, they've been buying money, cutting back on local crops, and there's no way a single bird or fish has survived because hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds of unemployed people have been sacrificed for this boondoggle.
Now, yeah, boondoggle is a great word for it, and that's the word I used when I was describing it as well. We're still having a little bit of problem with your audio. It's kind of got an echoey sound to it.
Yep.
So I don't know if there's anything you can do at this point, but I do want to say that when this bill was introduced, many of us were upset that they were going to take this out of the common school funds, and part of the reason. Wow.
I pushed the wrong one.
That was the wrong button. But it sounds kind of cool if you're on LSD.
Does that work better?
Oh, that does sound better.
Boy, I do not like StreamYard.
I'm sorry. I apologize. It's it's one of the few platforms where it's one of the few streaming services that I can get to all of the platforms in which you can see my show on. And so Zoom doesn't offer those type of forwarding services that you can, push this out to Rumble. I can do it on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and so on and so on. So, and fortunately, I'm kind of inhibited by some of the technology on StreamYard.
I'm on a Mac and I think that's the problem. This is a Google product, and they had me switch browsers and download the StreamYard software, and I'm trying to do the adjustment now, and we're having problems.
Well, I apologize sincerely to that. I didn't realize that. So the next time I have a guest, the first thing I should ask them is if they have a Mac computer, and that would help us solve some of these problems. But getting back to Senate Bill 1546, there were a lot of people here who, the people who were supporting of it, were telling us that this bill was going to take the management of this forest back to the people of Coos County. And one of the things that it was going to do was that it was going to allow us to have a little more input on the forest. But in fact, it seems like it's done the opposite, because it's limited on the bill itself, limited what things you could do on the forest. And it only gave the Research Forest Advisory Committee a certain amount of provisions that they can maneuver within. And I've got a copy of the Elliot State Research Forest Advisory Committee. And as you can see, we got people like Melissa Cribbins and Keith Timechuk on there. He was the mayor of Reedsport. She was the commissioner here. And I only know a couple of these other names, but a whole lot of them don't seem like people that you would really want involved with this service. In fact, I would prefer your name to be on this advisory committee. How did that happen?
Well, it's all environmental lawyers. Jeff Huntington is key, Bob Silent key, Melissa Cribbin, lawyer, and they don't have a single forest manager on it. So they're setting a forest management plan, and it's set up by environmental lawyers.
I have a friend who's in the timber industry. I have a couple of friends who are loggers, and I asked them if they would still be willing to go up and log in the Elliot Forest. And one of my friends told me that they've almost waited too long for logging, that either the trees are going bad or they're just too big to be in demand. I'm not sure how that is, but because I'm not a logger, but I'm just curious, is it still a viable forest which we can pull timber off of?
Yeah. It's got billions of feet. Trees aren't too big. It's less than 1% old growth. It's most of it's second growth. And there's maybe 20,000 acre plantations going back to on the farm, and those are 6 years old. So they're over smaller diameter cotton.
And one of the things that you said in your responses that I just read for 1546 is that you were more worried about the wildfire conditions that were going to occur up there, more so than over logging. And I'll show a chart that you just sent out recently about the logging that they're doing up there right now. But one of the things that I just get upset about, there it is right there, the Elliot State Forest timber harvest. And right now, it seems like if we don't cut stuff down, if we don't cut some of that timber out, we are risking a serious fire risk up there right now.
We're guaranteeing it. Part of my research with Jerry Phillips, and you'll see his name real small along the top when he was operating it. But we've shown major wildfires there in the 1700s, 1840s, 1868, 1879. And we're building up fuels for another one. We don't remove them or manage.
Now, and the green line on this chart, this is what I found interesting. The green line says the average annual forest growth. And you're going to have to explain the number next to it. And underneath that says the yellow line, 1988 long-range harvest plan. It looks like we're not even coming close to harvesting enough trees to keep up with the growth, that it seems like we're going to have an overgrowth of trees up there, which could be even worse than if we actually cut down some of those damn things.
Well, the yellow line was based on a lot younger, smaller trees, because it's from 1988. The green line shows sustainable yield. So if we were just keeping the volume the same year, we'd be logging green line. The white line is what Oregon State proposed or was stuck with. But the red line is the actual harvest. So the space between the green line is how much fuel built up since 1990. It's a massive amount.
It is a massive amount. That's a huge amount, and it's almost like they're setting it up for failure. You talked about the lawyers, and especially the environmentalist lawyers on there. Do they not understand that if you don't pull some of those trees off the land, you don't create a fire break, that you could risk the entire forest just because of some idea of what they call wilding, that they want everything to go back to the remnants before, mankind was around,
Well, I don't know if they know that or not, but that's the fact. It's they don't know. We have a lawyer that's interested in job security, and they are finding a situation in which they can continue filing lawsuits on marble murrelets or spotted owls that live there, or coho, which without paying much attention.
It just doesn't make sense to me, and these are smart people, and because it doesn't make sense to me, there always seems to be an ulterior motive, and I think money is the basis of this. I think a lot of these attorneys make a lot of money off these lawsuits, and in the end, it's the people who live around these forests who are going to really pay the ultimate price for whatever damages happen on there. If this burns, if this potentially burns out, right now the way the law is, are we going to be able to go in there and pull the burnt logs out and replant it, or are we stuck with what's burnt? Because I've understood that that's one of the problems that we're having right now.
It's a serious problem. They're not allowing the service of dead logs, trees on the federal lands. And then they burn again. And so that's the danger. That's why they started burning in the 1800s and 1800s. And our own fire burned in 1933, 39, 45, and 51. It was called the 6-year jinx. And we had to go in and remove snags in order to make fire stop. The Tillamook Forest.
And I love all this stuff that you're saying. You remind me of someone that I don't know if you may know him. His name is Dan Vargine, and he's a biologist friend of mine. Do you know Dan?
No, I don't.
Okay, he's another one who I used to love going to the wildlife, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the Oregon Fish and Wildlife meetings, because Dan would show up. And you would have one of these young biologists reading a report, and they would read a report on the Marlboro murrelet, and Dan would step up and go, "That's not what that says. You got that wrong, kid." And the kid will look at him, "Well, who are you?" And he goes, "Well, look at the back of that page. And he goes, "Are you Dan Vargine?" "Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm the guy who wrote that, and you're completely misinterpreting my work." And are you finding that young biologists are now kind of leading with ideology over science, the scientific method, and instead of actually doing the real work, they're misinterpreting it so that they can get the results they want, so that they can tell these lawyers this information so that the lawyers could then use it to close down these types of forests?
It's not just the young biologists. This goes back 30 some years. In 1982 or 93, I testified at a congressional hearing in Coos Bay about marble murrelet. They have totally blown that story with lies and misdirections. And it's worked to the advantage of the lawyers, and it's cost thousands of jobs.
Now, is that the same with, because we had this happen, I think it was in the mid-'80s, late 80s, with the spotted owl. And now, of course, we're going to go out and kill the barred owl, I believe it is. We're going to kill millions of them to save the spotted owl. We'll kill one creature to save another creature that, as far as I understand, aren't really indigenous to Oregon. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but how did we get stuck with this damn bird ruling our world?
Lawyers.
Yeah.
The Endangered Species Act was in 1980 or 73 or something. And then in the early 80s, we had the Environment Equal Access to Justice Act. That meant taxpayers had to pay lawyers that represented untaxed profit organizations that filed suit on behalf of a bird that lives in the ocean, or an owl that is called a hoot owl. We decided to do racial differences between spotted and barred hoot owls. And now we're spending millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hoot owls in the name of racial purity.
No,
It's
jeez.
crazy.
That's crazy. Well, and here it gets even crazier, Bob. They want to put an array of windmills off the coast of Coos Bay, which, from what I understand, they're going to kill a lot of Marlboro marlets flying in from wherever they fly in from, and yet there isn't one damn biologist that is complaining about them on the Elliot Forest who are complaining about it for the windmills. I mean, the inconsistency kind of proves that they're not based in science. And have you seen that as well? And how do you feel about those windmills?
Well, I'm generally against the windmills, but I don't know about their effects on wildlife or anything. But when we're shutting down forestry and we're removing and we're replacing it with solar panels created from somebody's making money, and the cost is enormous rural community.
And the amazing thing is from what I understand, that there's a new process where they can take beams of wood and stack them together and glue them together so that they're as strong as steel girders. They're just as strong. And there's a building, I forget where it is in Oregon, that's completely made of this new process of wood. And it seems like if we would have followed the direction of the science and the technology that's improving on these type of wood construction products, that we would have been better off following that than pushing all this environmentalism that really doesn't sequester the wood, because eventually it's going to burn.
That's exactly right. And to sequester wood in the first place to store carbon is like mining the ocean to get salt. It's silly.
So and this is the other thing with carbon. Carbon really is necessary for life on the planet, isn't it?
It's a building block of life.
So why would we want to reduce it? It sounds like, let's reduce carbon. Aren't they really saying, well, let's reduce life, is kind of what they're telling us.
They're describing a non-even flow, natural functioning ecosystem as an ideal. That's a theoretical condition in which humans are not pathogens. It works great for lawyers, but it does really bad for the rural communities and the price of houses.
So what you're saying is that they have found an invasive species and we are it, right?
Yep.
I love this. So if I just saw you just sent out an email where it was talking about the money that they were going to give. It was $4 million that they were going to give to the state land board. And something about the SB 1546 sunsetting. Explain to us, does that bill sunset, and are they going to be able to get that $4 million to do whatever they're going to do with it? Because I'm not even sure what they're going to do with it since they're not managing the forest.
It sunsetted on January 1st. That's the big news. So they had $4 million allocated for this new agency. And it doesn't exist now. So Department of State Lands is trying to forge ahead with an advisory committee, which is the same people, the same lawyers, and use the money for that. So they've got to get legislative approval to use it for themselves, for the same people, but without official recognition.
Oh, wow. That's just as crazy as what we were just talking about.
Yep.
That's, and of course they're going to have they're going to rehash all the same ideas that they've had before. Because they never seem to come up with anything new. And this isn't going to really lead us to any solution because, I want you to talk about that. There was the Geezy solution. What was it called?
It was a Geezy plan alternative.
Tell us about that.
Well, my longtime friend Wayne Geezy was a high school graduate, and he worked tirelessly until he was 99, and broke his leg, had to quit working. But he won national awards from Society of American Foresters and state awards for his forestry work without being a college graduate. And that was because the proposal was to end the forest wars by taking part of the national forest and managing it for products and jobs as it had been. And then the other half, create a wilderness and let the environmentalists manage that, and then measure the difference between animal population, economics, aesthetics, fire history, and so on. Comparative analysis. When he couldn't sell that, he was dealing with Grizzly, but then he retired in disgrace. He was supposed to be presenting a plan to a national conference, Western Governors Conference, that he chaired. But so when that ended, Ted Ferrioli, a Republican senator, asked Wayne and me to devise a plan to demonstrate the plan to Elliot, because at that time it ended up for sale. So we put that out as an alternative proposal, and we were getting action until the environmental stepped in and
okay, this kind of leads me back to 1546, and Ashley Hicks just kind of asked this question that I was going to lead to. If you could see this on the screen, he says, can you ask him, in his opinion, on how David Brock Smith, the gentleman who sponsored SB 1546, has helped or hindered this subject? Because he's a conservative Republican, and yet he's the one who came up with this plan to put literally the environmental lawyers in charge. Why would he do something like that? And I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
My opinion is I'm a politician. I have no idea why people do a different legislation or not. sometimes it's to dodge a curve, and so it looks negative and it's not. And other times it's well intentioned, but poorly informed. So 1546 has been an effort to force the hand these folks. And in that regard, it worked excellent. Because Oregon State okay. And so and I think that opens the door for what we're talking about today, of returning functionality to the
and one of the things that it also did in that bill was that it gave a one-time payment of $220 million to the school fund when the school fund was making quite a bit more off the harvest to begin with. And one of the things that the politicians were saying, including David Brock Smith, is that it was a liability. It had become a liability to the state for some reason or another. I didn't get to ask the question when I was at this meeting when they were talking about this. How did the whole process before SB 1546, how did the forest become a liability, and why did it stop providing money to the school fund? Or is that just a yarn they're telling to promote this research forest?
No. The endangered species, if you look at the first track, started limiting the amount of harvest, and so the forest was becoming increasingly profitable. And then in 2012, the environmentalists, Bob Salinger and Portland Audubon, Cascadia Wild, the usual suspects, filed suit against the Elliot, and shut down 28 logging sites on all of the states. So they put Salinger in charge of the committee to determine how to manage the forest. And he was just quoting when he sees a load of logs, the Elliot, he's going to be vomiting. So they're not Mirror. They're for personal income, personal power, and they're using the laws to do that. And putting people out of work, burning up the wildlife.
And Salinger is known for this. This is something Bob Salinger is. I've been in this state for 20 years, and I remember going back almost 20 years. This has been the same routine he's been following for a long time, and he's put a lot of people out of business. The Elliot Forest used to, because of resources we were able to pull out of the forest, we had over 400 people working that property. Today, how many jobs have created on the Elliot Forest? Is there any timber being harvested at all?
Not for years. There's one or two people working on it, maintaining the roads.
Wait a minute, one or two people?
Yep.
That's like keeping back the ocean with the broom.
There's 5 or 10 lawyers that are doing okay, and some legislators.
Yeah.
But not local people, not blue-collar jobs.
That is a damn shame, because it sounds like the Giese plan that you were talking about. Am I pronouncing that right, Giese?
Yes.
Okay. The Giese plan it sounds like it used all aspects of what every practical person who's lived out here in the wilds in rural Oregon would expect. You want to save the forest. You want to keep the animals. We want all of that. I mean, I don't know why these environmental lawyers think we hate animals. I love them, and some of them are delicious. And we need these animals. And the other thing is that we need the recreation. We need the biking trails. We need the hiking trails. We need all of that to happen. We need the education of the forest, because, that is a vault of information that, a man of your age and my age, we can't always pass that on unless we have younger people to teach this information to. So we need that mind vault. And then you need the practicality of the fact it's a working forest that has to be managed. It seems like he hit on all 5 of those issues. You know what I mean? And it just frustrates me as a political man, because politics it's definitely not a science, that's for sure. But when you go up to Salem and you try to explain that to these people, that, we are a working community and we love it because we have forests, because we have clean rivers, because we have clean lakes, and we want to keep it that way. And the only way to do that is to actually follow through with the management of this plan. So now that we're to this point, SB 1546 is expired. What are the odds that we might be able to get the Giese plan through and convince them, the legislatures, convince people out there who are opposed to this, that this is a much better idea?
I'd say close to zero.
Okay.
It needs to be considered, and we're doing that. We've got meetings with the dean. We've got letters out to OSU. We're dealing with the legislators, just to get some consideration and common sense going in the argument. For the past 7 years, our nonprofit has been working with Southwest Community College, Southwest Oregon Community College, with forest recreation class. We built websites. We worked with students every year with sports. We've put up field trips, virtual lectures, and at the same time we received no report, no support from the state Department of State, Oregon State University. Nobody. So we've been doing research, and you were talking about information. We've done 25 hours of oral history with Jerry Phillips and David Gould, and mapped those, described them, deposit archives, and we put them online. And we put them online with our tapes of the field trips. And Oregon State and Department of State didn't even look at that after 5 years, millions of dollars. It's the largest array of information from Elliot that's been assembled, and it's been totally canceled.
Wait a minute, it's been canceled?
Well, they put out a 640-page report management plan, and despite all my dozens of articles on the Elliot, my PhD, Oregon websites and water projects, 7 years of work, our website, not a single citation, 640 pages.
Oh my God! We're the ones who live out here. Who do they think understands that forest better than guys like us, people like us in our county? And Southwest community. Yeah, that is kind of why they vote. Well, I've often thought that the people in Portland and Salem, they look at us as their playground. They just want to turn it into a playground, and they really want to get rid of us. The problem is where the hell do they think they're going to get food from? And it was like when they were doing the Bandon Marsh expansion, and they wanted to turn, the bring back the marsh all the way up to the 4-mile marker up the Coquille. And those are classic. Most of them are organic farms up there that provide food for the surrounding areas: chickens, goats, sheep, cows, and they're all working farms. And we were, thank goodness we won on the Bandon Marsh expansion, because, it would have been just a mosquito refuge. They were trying to reintroduce encephalitis and malaria, I guess. And so it seems like they just want to turn us into the playground for the Northerners here.
Well, they want to turn it into a playground, but they never use it. They get their food from Safeway, and they the contractor bring in the lumber. And it doesn't matter if Canada or Virginia. It's they have no idea what's going on. And when you see actually using the Elliot for recreation, or the Tillamook for recreation, They're not. It's local people that know the land that are being put out of work, and they're put in danger through increased wildfire risk. Plus, the roads are being down and made impassable. They're not being managed, so access is being limited.
That's another thing that I've heard that's been going on up in the Elliot is that they are closing those forest roads up there. And once you close the roads up there, you're not going to be able to get fire crews to where the fires are. That's going to be a huge... And this is a state forest, okay? You know, I know when the feds do it, you understand it because they're just a bunch of morons sometimes in the federal bureaucracies that we have up here. But this is the state forest, and the state should damn well know when we're burning 1 million acres every year for the last, and not for very long, because this is just a new phenomenon that we're now burning 1 million acres. I mean, back in the 50s, we weren't having hardly any of these fires because we were managing the forest. And now, and I think this should be the perfect example of why we have to manage it, is all of a sudden we're burning 1 million acres, and these are the same people saying, well, you got to let the plants grow, the trees grow, because we're going to sequester all that carbon. But yet they're the same people who are allowing these 1 million acre burns that are polluting the air with all this smoke. You know, it turns my town orange every summer almost.
From 1952 until 1987, 35 years, we had one major fire in excess of 2,000 acres. It was the Oxbow fire in 1987, we had the river complex. And from then, 7 years ago, we've had 30 to 40 major fires, one a year. And it's all been predicted. It was all preventable. And they don't listen because it doesn't affect them personally. They're making money with carbon credits, or legal fees, or fundraising profit to save a bird. And they're putting out people to work. They're killing millions of wildlife. They're polluting the air and the water, and they're oblivious.
You know, carbon credits, you know, being raised Catholic, it was kind of like going to confession on Sunday. You know, I can sin like a demon from Monday through Saturday. And then on Sunday, I go in and I can confess all my sins, and it was all better now. That's exactly how carbon credits really work. You can pollute half of New Jersey, but if you got enough carbon credits here in Oregon of those trees that aren't being cut down, well, you're good to go. Can you explain how to... A lot of people don't understand how those carbon credits work. Could you explain a little bit to the audience how they happen to occur?
Well, the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant rather than a building block got the lawyers involved, regulations on land. You say they're managing it, but the fact is they're restricted by hundreds of different regulations that have all from the last 30 or 40 years. So anybody younger than 40 or anybody that's stayed in the last years thinks that this is normal. But those of us in the 50s and 70s and the 80s can remember good schools, nice parks, nobody sleep sidewalk, good jobs, and we know things have changed. But it's taken place over decades, and younger people and new arrivals don't have that perspective. So they're able to be on this idea that credit will somehow affect the climate of the earth and keep us from burning up or something. It's a racket.
Yeah. Mitigation, they call it. Mitigation, and you're not mitigating nothing. You're just switching the problem from one place to another, and you still have the problem. In fact, it only gets worse. It's not even
a problem. Having carbon dioxide in the air, it's what they put in greenhouses.
Right.
That's our food. My goodness. You gotta accept the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant to accept the idea that they are mitigating anything. So it's just a racket where people are keeping people from logging, and they're using money doing it.
So we talked about the lawyers, and the lawyers make a huge amount of money. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I know lawyers here who there's a law if you sue for anything environmental, that whether you win or lose, they'll pay the lawyer's fee. I wish I could get that deal. And one of the things that's beyond just the lawyers doing this, and you're a man who's been on this planet long enough. You know the threats of communism, fascism. We've lived through it. We've experienced. Do you think that there is an ideological bent on the bureaucrats and the people in politics to push us towards a more centralized government, whether it be fascism, whether it be communism, that's really where they're going with all of this? And eventually it'll just be the erosion, the complete abolition of private property, because we're not even going to have private property anymore, because it's going to be so overregulated that they're going to be able to tell us what to do, when, where, and why. But do you think that that's beyond what the lawyers of making money, that it's actually ideological driven?
I think that's probably a lot of it. When we had the federal law that had access and responsibility for navigable streets and so much of the ocean, that was one thing. They own over 50% of the land. And so the environmental law industry and NEPA were both invented on the same day, December 22nd, 1969.
Oh, wow.
The HCPs are federal regulations that allow the government to take control of our streams and wildlife and buffer strips that are outside navigable streams. It's a land grab by the federal government. And there's not a real scientific basis.
And that's literally what in the last hour we have been describing, is that there is no scientific basis to it. And yet that's the emotional education that they're indoctrinating our children with, that it's not about the scientific method. It's not about, and I go back to the million acres that are burning now over the last 37 years. They don't even look at the science. And this is what they used to do here in New Mexico. I'm not here in New Mexico, but when I used to live in New Mexico, they would show us kids in school pictures of these clear cuts. And it was horrible. You would see these clear cuts in Oregon, and they would literally tell you that they've chopped down every tree. But if they would have taken the camera and just panned it over a couple of degrees, you would see there were trees to the left, there were trees to the right, and that there were areas that were clear cut just 5 years ago that now have 10-foot trees on them and stuff. And so they only showed you what they wanted you to see to get that emotional response, so that when we grew up, we were a bunch of tree huggers. Oh, they've cut down every last tree. And that's what's so frustrating with me now that I live in Oregon. I live here. The first thing I came here, I said, I'd like to see the forest if they just cut down some of these trees, So,
she likes to see the land.
Yeah,
I was a tree planter. I started a reforestation business in Coos County in 1969. My crews did about 85,000 acres of reforestation. And when you have a clear, you have wildflowers, songbirds, butterflies, deer, all the animals we like, flowers, because they need sunlight. And it was normal to have patches of the landscape open to huckleberry, the riparian area. HCPs, they were just that's where people can swim and gather the water and harvest for thousands of years. And now to say that we need to drag some needs on those waterways is a land grab. And a real problem is they're calling it science. And it's not. It's modeling. It's kids playing computer games. And by kids, I mean people and under.
Right.
The federal government, taxpayers paying them to model so-called habitat. It's a land grab. It's not critical habitat. It's not critical. It's all made up.
Right.
All made up.
Right. Absolutely. And so after all this, because it sounds like you've planted more trees than most loggers have ever cut down, clearly. And most loggers I talk to will tell you they planted more trees than they ever cut down. And in fact, I just recently, I had some little seedlings that I got, and I went and planted them in the park. Don't tell the park keeper because, but, you know, I just wanted to do my little part there. And so we actually take care of this. Is like corn in Nebraska. You know, and I grew up partly in West Texas. And every summer they would have nothing but rows and rows of corn. And the only difference is that corn is cut down every year. Our trees are cut down 40 or 50 or 60 years, but there's really no difference. You have to do it. And if you don't do it, this is that practical science. It's just going to burn. And I don't know. I don't know where we can get the scientists to get back to the point where they're scientists, you know, and it's just absolutely frustrating that we can't do this. I do got up on the screen. It says the Elliot State Research Forest 2024 work plan. And I'll read this real quick. It says in December of 2023, the State Land Board affirmed continued desire to create the Elliot State Research Forest and supported a pathway framework outlining key action steps and considerations for continuing work to establish the ESRF in 2024. The Department of State Lands has translated the framework into a draft 2024 work plan and will provide an informational update during the State Land Board meeting this Tuesday, tomorrow, February 13th at 10 a.m. in Salem. And from what I understood from your email, they're not going to allow public comment on this?
Nope. They say it's not an action item. In December, when they found out that the Senate Bill 1546 was being sunset, they wouldn't even let Oregon State speak. So the whole thing's being done behind closed doors. Bob Salinger is working with Jeff Huntington, most from the list. I hope Melissa Cribbins is involved with the lawyer, but she's a member. And then the representative, natural resource for Governor Brown for 3 or 4 years, a lawyer. So he was working Salinger and Huntington and maybe Cribbins to affect this strategy. So whoever put out 1540 been doing us a big favor, basically. Put up and shut up on the economic plans you're doing. And they couldn't. And they said doing HC, it was supposed to be completed in 2017, then 2018. Then they got $1 million in 2019. Now it's 2024, and the HC bracket is still going on. So it's going to be difficult to see what happens next. You can see what they're going to do is putting people in control and made a mess of every last 10 years.
Well, that's government. You screw up and you get a promotion. It's unbelievable. It's very frustrating for people of us who work in the real world. So I guess really we can't even submit any written comments. There's just nothing, huh? Yep. That just doesn't seem very fair. I was reading your email because I saw the meeting that you had posted, and I was just getting frustrated because if you're having one of these meetings, the first people you think you would want to talk to are the people who are directly affected by your plan, this 2024 work plan, and you know how well they've planned before. I mean, we can see that. I don't know. And as you as a scientist who's been working on this for so long, this must be multi-frustrating for you on several levels.
That's true. That's true. The people that we were reading and videotaping and talking to were the absolute experts. And most of them died now because it's so long ago.
Right.
The people that are managing this from Department of State land do not talk to people. They don't talk to actual forest managers. They are playing computer games, and they're putting out regulations, and they're cashing paycheck. Everybody else is out of work. We never see them. They're not on the forest. They're online. They're in Portland.
And then these are the same people who sit around going, why are there so many homeless people who are strung out on drugs with no ambition in their life? Well, they didn't learn how to play the video games to figure out how to manage the forests that aren't getting managed. And we sit here, and it's like, and most of these people, it wouldn't matter if you got them a house or not. They're drug-addled people or mentally ill. But the ones who are looking for houses, the truly homeless, that problem was created by the same people who are managing our forest. If they would just allow developers to develop without all these extra rules and regulations and fees and land use restrictions, we would have a lot of this problem solved. And I don't know if I feel any better talking to you, Bob. I hate to say that. You know what I mean?
I think there's opportunity here.
Okay.
When I was younger in Oregon, people weren't on the sidewalk because they were either in a mental hospital, or they were in jail, or they had a job. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And we've got illegal aliens across the border doing it for pennies on the dollar. It's like a modern day slavery. And we have the government dependent living in tents on sidewalks. This is all new. And it's all unavoidable. So the people that have shut down the forest and had to complain about the people on the sidewalks are also dependent on those people. If you look at the legislation and that, a lot of it is rewarding people for living on the sidewalk or arriving here late. They're enticed to do those things rather than an enticement to do work that needs to be done.
One of the things I'll be talking about here after I get you off the air is they're going to do a new property tax. They're considering a statewide property tax up in Oregon. And part of the reason is that they need more money for affordable housing. So to make housing affordable for people who can't afford it, they're going to make housing less affordable for those of us who can barely afford it now. And so it's once again, we're going to manage the forest by letting it burn. I mean, it's just, I don't know. And I hope there is opportunity, because I think the generations coming up after us, I think they truly deserve it if they got a chance. And for old guys like us, there's not a lot of time left, but I would like to spend the rest of my time trying to educate them on things that are real and not computer generated models that seem to have a huge amount of flaws. And it's just what you can create in a computer game is never what is the reality of the situation.
I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and a great-grandchild, and those are my bosses. Things that were a lot better when I was younger. It's not my memory, videos. It's eyewitness accounts, and we know how to make things better. And we know how to make matter getting back to work and doing the jobs that need to be done, and it's the benefit of everybody. If we have housing, if we'd salvage all of that, trees out, and maintain the infrastructure that would, because then people have jobs, and they have cheaper materials and higher grade material.
Right.
So that's what we used to do, and we should be doing it now.
The Gizi plan. That's literally the Gizi plan. And it only makes sense from a 99-year-old man who did he ever make it to 100?
No, almost. And then Terry Phillips hit in 94. And David Gould unexpectedly and sadly at age 81 on January 1st. So out of the four of us, working with the Southwest Oregon Community College, I'm the last one standing since I was a kid. And I'm 75.
We got to keep you propped up, sir. We got to keep you going because you are a mind trust. You are a brain trust that we definitely need. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on this show and I hope you can get on many other venues because this information needs to get out there. This information needs to be spread around and people need to hear it. And maybe 20 years from now, we'll see a bunch of 30-year-olds watching this going, there was an idea, there was a plan. Let's get back to that because, like you said, the things the way they are now are intentional and it's not going a good direction. Before I get you out of here, is there anything you would like to tell the audience?
I'd like to address that point in your part. I think it's really important that we leave information, solid information, future generations. So I've been talking on Lars Larson for more than 20 years. For a dozen years, I've been writing studies, articles for Oregon Fish and Wildlife Journal. Evergreen Magazine Peterson have been good, but we definitely have the word out as to what's happening. And figure out how to fix things. So that I think what we're both in this for, and that's only fair for our children and grandchildren and my great grandkids.
I completely agree with you. I can get you back on this show some other time, right?
You bet. We can fix this sexual.
Yeah, we will work on this before I get you on the show again. We'll work on the sound of this. I'm not too happy with it, but it came through all right. It was a little echoey, but it will work. And I think you answered a lot of questions. People in the comment section have really been commenting about what you have been saying, and I think they get it. They understand what's going on, and many of them are much younger than you or and I. So I appreciate this, sir, and I hope you have a good day.
Well, thank you much. I've enjoyed talking to you, and definitely we'll fix it again.
You got it. Take care, Bob.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right. I enjoy talking to. He's like one of those people who, and I've said this quite often, that if I could, I would have this committee of old guys, old people. And this committee of old people, you would go to this committee when you had all kinds of crazy problems, and you would tell the committee, "This is my problem, old wise ones," and they would be able to answer your question, because going to a bunch of 30-year-olds or 20-year-olds and asking them the answer to a lot of these age-old problems, it's just absolutely ridiculous. This is just not going to save anything. This is just not going to be beneficial for society if we allow the younger generation to try to answer these questions. They just don't have a clue. They just don't know exactly what's going on. And so, yeah, I would love to get Bob on my old folks committee, because I think there are a lot of people out there. And in fact, when I have a problem in politics, or, heck, I have a problem fixing my old car, that's who I go to. I go to these older guys and I say, "Hey, could you explain this to me? And they will know the history of stuff. They will know what tools that you actually need to use to fix something." And I think that we are completely missing a brain trust in a generation of people who are much older and wiser than we are, and we should probably be listening to them, because I get tired of 20-year-olds telling me how to live. 20-year-olds telling me what pronoun to use. I don't need them telling me what kind of pronoun to use. That's certainly not something that I need a 20-year-old telling me. I need someone like Tim from Tom and Gigs to tell me what kind of tools I need to use on my car, because something's broken on them. And that's who I got on right now is Tim from Tom and Gigs. Tim, how you doing?
Hey, man. Excellent. Doing great. Excellent. Doing great.
Wow.
But,
I'm getting an echo from you too.
Maybe we can turn the volume down here. That may be the problem.
No, you're okay. Let me see. I think I fixed it on my side.
I think we're better there. Josh was trying to turn the volume down.
We got it. We got it.
Styling. Technology at work here.
I should have tried this. I was just talking to Dr. Bob Zybach, and the guy's a genius on the Elliot Forest. And he's very, he's lived a long time, and they've got a lot of, the environmentalists who have taken over that forest and who are just running it into the ground. They're going to let it burn. And he wants to get it back to a working forest where we can have recreation, where we can study the forest and make it a research forest, and make it applicable to recreation and timber production, all of the above. And it can be done. It can be done really easily. And I just had him on the air, and I should have just tried what I tried with you to get rid of that echo, because I think we've done a little bit better now.
Good.
I can hear you. So what are you doing?
Cool. Well, we're just doing all kinds of good stuff, But the whole timber thing, I'm not a logger or a contractor guy with those things, but where did the government ever get the ability to own land, for one? How can you make all these national forests and all this kind of crapola? It's actually, national forests aren't a constitutional thing anyway. It's a bunch of baloney, but yet they want to control everything here, and we need those resources being used. Otherwise, like you say, it's going to burn. Why let it burn when you can harvest it and do the county some great good? I mean, there's a huge revenue out there sitting there growing, and you replant, you grow it again. So why not use a renewable resource instead of letting it burn? Seems stupid.
Well, and that's just, you just hit on an important thing. You know how they always talk about we need to use reusable fuel. Well, wood and trees is reusable. We need reusable trees out there. Oh, yeah, they've always been that way. You plant them, you cut them down, you plant them again. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the matter with kids these days.
Yeah. What about every 30 years they harvest from plant to full mature tree? I guess that they consider a full mature tree. We don't see one log loads, anymore. I don't think there's out there could cut that log anyway. So it's days gone by. But all the pictures I see of you go to Denny's Pizza or something, not just giving them a plug, but they got a lot of neat logging pictures from back in the day, and that's really a pretty impressive thing what those people used to do. And without that, what would this town be if it wasn't logging back then? I mean, we wouldn't be nothing here.
And you know what kills me and I think maybe it wasn't with you. I forget who we were out at Denny's, the pizza restaurant in Coquille. And what was impressive is that they were cutting down trees the size of the room I'm sitting in, a little larger than the size of the room I'm sitting in, with size. And they were doing it with those old fashioned saws where you'd have two guys on each end of the saw going back and forth. And none of this, a big chainsaws that we have today. And I'm just impressed that they could do that and then be able to have the technology back then to haul that big ass tree to wherever the lumberyard was.
Pretty amazing stuff. Those guys were tough dudes. I'm telling you what, they still are. Being a choker setter or any guy doing out there, man, you're risking your life every day, and it's. You are one tough dude. UFC guys probably wouldn't stand a chance against those guys.
Right. And they're little guys. Usually there would be like little guys, and I'm like, how did that little guy cut down that big ass tree? And there'd be two of them with one of those big saws, and you're like, I couldn't do it today. I'm just not in that kind of shape. So
Give
I
me a
don't know.
chainsaw. Even with a chainsaw, it'd be work. I mean, good
Even
grief.
with a chainsaw, it'd be work.
But yeah, it's just like say having the right tool, right? So all I can say is, a lot of people they know what a BFH is. That's one of their favorite tools. Big friggin' hammer. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
I always need a bigger one every time.
yep. And so, but yeah, it's having. There's so many different things on cars now. You got to have. I swear they make a fastener for every year, some new fastener, just so you have to buy a new tool. You're never done buying tools, but it takes that to do the job right. And a lot of people, Austin, he's got like $40,000-$50,000 invested just in tools, not even counting his toolbox, which that's a fancy thing, but still, you want to have pride in what you do. And when you have the tools to do it, the job gets done quicker, it gets done better and safer. And it's just, it costs money to do that. People don't realize all those things. Well, all you got to do, if anybody that tells me all you got to do, they don't have a clue what to do. They think they do. They look at the internet and they get on there and think, oh, it's just that easy. In 5 minutes, it's done. No, that's not how it works. Very seldom. So you got to, all these shows on TV shows them how to change an engine, and they do it in a half an hour from start to finish, and that's not how it works. So, but we just try to tell people this is what it's going to take, and this is hours it's going to take, and unfortunately, time is not free. And so if we don't charge for our time, though, we won't be here. It takes insurance and lights and all those different things add up to costs, and it's cost of doing business. And if we don't do that, then there won't be a business here. So hopefully we can stay afloat in Bidenomics world, tough it out a little bit until Trump gets in there, and maybe get some of our local officials to do what they're supposed to do. I'm tired of listening to all the idle, the talk that has no balls to it, I guess you say. They don't want to do anything. They talk tough when they're not elected. As soon as they get elected, they're go along to get along. I'm tired of that crap. And we all know who those people are here in this town. And hopefully people are waking up to, we ain't voting them people in. You're out of here. We'll give somebody else a chance. So, but we'll hold their feet to the fire too. But it's Tucker Carlson's got a great quote that says, "Countries can survive war and famines and disease. They cannot survive leaders who despise their own people." And I feel that way is true with some of our commissioners. They don't care about the people that are really out here toughing it out, having a hard time living. Well, they give themselves raises, right? They got a big raise, right? Well, how much they make in 6 figures, right? So
they didn't give themselves the raise. That's actually, and we had talked about that with the guy who had brought that up about their raise. That was a raise that they get every year for the living standards. They get a certain raise, and so they didn't vote on it because they have to go to the budget committee to actually get a raise for them. They have to get it approved. So it wasn't really them who gave themselves a raise. It was something that happens every year that passed through the legislature. So not I'm giving them excuses. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Yeah. The state can always afford more because they can just tax you a little more, and it'll just all work out fine and dandy. So happy.
They want to tax your property. They want to do a state property tax, and that's going to be happening here soon, where they're going to tax us a little bit more for our property. Do you really own it if you can never stop paying for it? Is the question.
That's right. That's really illegal too. That's to tax private property. I mean, they should be able to tax your car every year. All that that's your property. So if it is yours, how can they tax it? Because nobody owns property, not one single person. They say to pride of home ownership, and it grieves me because that's not true. That's a big lie. Don't pay your taxes and see who takes your property that you own free and clear. It's not yours, it's theirs. So that's something that really need. I'm against property taxes completely, especially for people who work their whole life, they're retired, their home's paid for. Let them off the hook, for crying out loud, at least that. So in their later years, they don't have to worry about that $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a year tax that they have on their nice home. Give them a little relief and peace. But kind of frustrating. All they do is want to take more. They keep taking. So we're working on some stuff about property taxes. I'll have to talk to you about that in private, but there's some interesting things coming down the pike on that whole deal. So I believe in ownership, but if you're taxing me on it, I don't own it. So same way with your right to make a living, right? So you have a right to make a living. They kind of attach your tax or a fee to a right. It's not a right. It's a privilege. It's not a privilege to go to work. It's a right to go to work. You have a right, and they can't tax those things. So how are they doing an income tax? That's illegal and unconstitutional. That's whose money is it?
And remember during COVID, they shut down the economy, and then for months and months, almost a year, they told certain businesses, "Well, you can't do business. We're gonna close down the schools, but we're gonna keep the bars open." And they get to make these arbitrary decisions on who has the right to commerce and who doesn't have the right to commerce, when we all should have that same right.
Yeah, who's the what do they call them? The essentials. I guess the
The
bar's
essential-
essential over an auto shop or whatever. I didn't close. I wasn't closing. I'm not doing it. You know, you get some Fed guy. I'll call the sheriff. I'll get him over there to arrest you, put you in the Gray Bar Motel. The sheriff's got the biggest stick, right? He's an elected official who has more power. He can tell Joe Biden to go pound sand and get out of Coos County. He's the one that is the law of the land here. Why? I think they ought to be doing like that guy down in Arizona. He's training his people for his militia there. So he's got trained people. He can rely on someone when crap hits the fan, if it does, that he's got somebody he can depend on. And he's got a group of folks trained to understand what it takes to do the job correctly. And I think we should be doing that here. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that want it. So
in Arizona, it's almost would have to be a necessity right now with the invasion. With the invasion that they have going on right now. They got all of these young men coming over from China and foreign Middle East countries. I see you, Josh. I see you back there. Troublemaking. He's troublemaking. That's what he's doing.
Man. He's these Indians, I don't know, man. He's off the reservation.
That was bad.
Man.
Really
we're all
bad.
on the reservation, brother. Tell me how we're
That's
not
right.
on the reservation. It don't matter.
Me and my wife got an expression. When you by the time you're, we're all old, we're all just going to be ended up in the same old trailer park.
Yeah, we'll have lots of stories to tell.
And we'll have lots of stories to tell. Yeah.
But I appreciate everything you're doing, and hopefully we can get some elections going and hold the county. You're doing a great job on bringing a lot of this stuff to light. It's great, and I wish I was more knowledgeable, had more time. I'm still a working slave, so it takes a lot to do. People don't realize what you do and the research you do and all those things, not just pumping you up because I like the show and I like you as a person, but this is, people wouldn't be getting this information if it wasn't for you. It's really vital. Otherwise we're just dumbed down people, and
Right.
How can you form an opinion when you don't hear both sides of the story? And they don't want us to know the other side because we're fighting for what's right. They're corrupt as hell. It's sickening. They're doing the wrong thing. They're lying to you all the time. Biden, he opens his mouth. I mean, any politician, especially if a Democrat, but they're not liberals. They're the left, as Chris Plant would say on the radio.
They're commies.
Yeah, they are. And I'm not going to stand for their crap, and I'll defend them. I don't care what it takes, whether it's, hopefully peaceably, right? But, hey, they've awakened a sleeping giant. And that's the other thing. We need to not be a sleeping giant. We need to be vocal, even if it's in stores. You can, hey, if anything, get them, find out, hey, do you believe in Christ? Do you believe in God? There's always an opportunity to talk to someone about political things or whatever it is that you feel that's on your heart. And people think, I never knew that before. I never heard that before. Like I tell them about your podcast. So I didn't know he had a podcast. Well, yeah, he does. So hopefully more and more people will hear that and they will spread the word as well. But people like us, it takes a lot to speak up. You get ridiculed, you get persecuted, you get shamed into doing. You're a crazy weirdo right winger. Well, I wear that badge happily and proudly, and so we're Americans here. We're not a bunch of social commie wannabe trans whatever crapola like they did in Florida. There, they just had a trans set thing protest. So they were all laying down on the ground, with their rip signs. Well, if they really want to do that, I'd have no problem if they want to be 6 feet under on their own. But there's only two genders, two,
Yeah.
dos, male, female. I don't care what you say you are. You can go argue about that with God. Okay, so I don't think you're going to get too far with him. But anyway, and we love everybody. I love everybody. Be what you want to be. Do what you want to do, but don't tell me I have to believe what you're doing or saying. Just leave me the hell alone, and we'll all be fine, and we'll go on with our lives. But anyway, I appreciate being on. Shop is great, doing good. Easy to get hold of us out here at the shop, 541-888-4660. Give Josh a call or whatever, and he'll set you up a time. We'll get your exhaust fixed or get you an alignment, lift kit, winch, tires, wheels, you name it. We can do it all, and tonneau covers as well. And the smiley guy in the back, he does a great job. He kicks butt on the phone. He knows his job. He's been here over 20 some years, so it's hard to believe. I was actually a young guy, and he was just a little kid, man.
Yeah, you probably had a lot more hair, and it was not so gray.
yeah. I mean, that's why I like wear a hat. So
I'm 40 pounds lighter.
And, but I'm in that one. I can lose 60 pounds and still not be missing anything.
Well, you're awesome, dude. And hope all your guests keep them going, and we'll keep supporting you. And we're behind you 100,000%. And 541-888-4660 on 135 South Shoneman here at the shop, man. Give us a call. Appreciate everything.
Take care, man.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
All right, I've got another guest on, and we're going to switch the topic here because I think this is very important. And we're going to be talking about, well, a senator who seems to be abusing his authority, and it's just disgusting what's going on. And those of us who have exposed this senator are being maligned, viciously maligned. And I'm going to talk to a guest here. I'm going to bring her on. Her name is Denesa Rains. Hi, Denesa. How you doing?
Hi, how are you, Rob?
That's a nice background.
Oh, thank you. You like my elk fighting in the background?
Yeah, I see your elk in the background. Is that the ceiling? Is that wood ceiling?
Yes, it is. I have naughty pine ceilings, yes.
Nice. Very nice. I like that. So what have you been doing today?
Paying bills. It's with that ice storm and stuff, everything came in late, really late. And anyway, was paying all day long. My hand's bleeding right now.
My hands bleed from the bills I pay. Yeah, I can understand that. So they've got a tax bill. I think you were one of the people who sent this to me. They've got a proposal for a tax, property tax, and I know this would directly affect you. And so I want to put it up here. Let's see. Yeah, this is the, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. It's crazy. It's going to hurt rural people. We've got the second cheapest property tax here in Coos County for the whole state, and now they're going to equalize it out with Portland and everything. It's going to be devastating.
Yeah, that's equity. We all got to be just as tax miserable, I guess.
Well, I passed it out to everyone I knew as fast as I could, and there's people fighting for right-of-way rights right now, and they're hot as it is, and so I sent it out to them. Talk to my realtor, how it's going to affect realtor people, how it's going to affect poor people that are on. They bought their house and they're on a fixed income. This is going to be devastating to them. It's a way to push people out of their homes.
Oh yeah, completely. Let me tell everyone what this is. This is a House Joint Resolution 201, which would create a statewide property tax. And on Tuesday, tomorrow, once again at 1 o'clock, this is February 13th, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Hearing Room D in the state capitol, they're going to be taking testimony. And if you can attend in person, that would be best if you can attend in person. But many of you who cannot attend in person, you can go to the legislative website and go into Ole's, type in the bill number, and you can submit your own testimony. I should have put those links in here, but it really wouldn't have mattered because you can't click the links from a video screen. But if you could see on the screen now, folks, this is coming our way. This is people in Salem who once again want to increase how much taxes are on your property, and we already pay a county property tax. They've got an income tax we just paid that. I know Denesa probably has just paid her income taxes, and I mean, you just feel like you get beat up.
Well, they're trying to take all local authority away. Even with HB 4080, they're going to take curriculum decisions by the local school boards away. If people don't start, I mean, they're just ramming things through right now as fast as they can to take this away on a county level, setting our own property taxes within our own counties and our own cities. I was up in Salem on Thursday, and you should see that. I shouldn't call them freakazoids, but I'm telling you, it's rampant up there. The people that are going up there fighting, I mean, there was people up there protesting to take the dams away in Winchester. If there's no opposition to this, it's going to get your rights are getting taken away. Just sitting there on your couch, not saying anything or writing anything or going there in person. I didn't go up there to really see anything other than I went up to Salem to follow up on campaign finance law. There was a lawsuit up in the court. There was a hearing, and I decided to go and look at if you've never been to the Capitol to see the representative side and the House and the Senate side, if you haven't ever done that, it would be well worth your trip to go up there and see it. I actually bought my first Oregon Constitution they have a little where you can buy keychains, a little souvenir shop right there in the front as you walk in. And I just happened to open it up and read it. And I've actually kind of done a poll myself of people. How many people in high school that I went to school at North Bend High School, how many people have actually in their civics class have read the Oregon Constitution? How many people have even read it as adults? If everyone keeps saying, I do not want to get involved in politics, well, they're passing all these rules, carte blanche, when there's no one there to do any opposition, call their senators, whatever. If they don't get up and do something, they're getting what they deserve.
They're getting, you get the government you deserve because you didn't participate. And it's definitely a participation sport. You have to get involved. And I have been up to the Capitol. There have been times when I've specifically went up there, rented a room and stayed there for a couple of days during the legislative session. And I would literally bug the hell out of their staff and the senators and the representatives. And I mean, it would get to the point where they would just get frustrated with me. And I thought, that's the best thing everyone should be doing. We all should be up there kind of getting in their line of sight so that they can figure out that there are a lot of us who were not paid protesters. I'm willing to bet that those protesters that you saw, I bet a lot of them are paid or they somehow make a living off of this activism that they do.
All they're going to do is force these windmills on us by taking out all these dams.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And your power rates are going to go 5-10 times higher. And, you know, the other thing is you need to go up and talk to your representatives and your senators and actually look at their offices. That was the biggest joke on Thursday. I got to go on both sides. And I went and looked at my senator, David Brock Smith's office. And I got to see other people's offices. And he's really trying to overcompensate that he is a elephant, a Republican. His whole office, he's got this massive rug up there. Well, I mean, anyone that walks in there is walking on the elephant. And I mean, he's overcompensating. If you're up there as a senator, the good senators are up there. They have law books on their walls. They have a flag. They have, I mean, this is not how a senator should look. His office shouldn't look like a souvenir shop, and it shouldn't have a bunch of elephants all over it to show that he's only a Republican. He has compromised and gone the other side more than we know. And most people don't even know it because they don't even follow his voting records.
I just talked to Dr. Bob Zybach, and I don't know if you caught any of that interview, but we were talking about SB 1546, which is the bill that David Brock Smith sponsored, and it turned the Elliot State Forest into a research forest where they no longer manage it. They used to have 400 people working in that forest. No longer do they have those 400 people working, and hundreds of millions of dollars used to go to the Common School Fund here in Oregon, going back several decades. This was a proposition that had been working well until the environmentalists got involved, stopped a lot of the logging that was going on there, and now our schools are suffering. And so David Brock Smith put this bill forward where the Common School Fund would get a one-time payment of $220 million, and then the forest would be turned over to the state lands department. And from there, they would create a committee where there would be people on this committee, mostly environmentalist lawyers like Melissa Cribbins and environmentalists like Bob Salinger. And we really, it didn't go back to local control, and it's not being managed. And what Bob is saying, this guy is a scientist. He's got a PhD in environmental science, and he's saying that it's going to burn. That eventually that forest is building up so much fuel for the next fire that happens as soon as we have a dry summer, really dry summer, that forest is going to burn, and there's nothing we can. It's going to happen. It's not if, it's going to happen.
Well, what happens is they're trying to lower the property values on all this stuff so that it could get bought up by foreign influence. And most of the time it's China, as we've already seen. Anda, I think, is the company that is bought up, that's owned by a foreign entity. The thing is to be positive about all this. I mean, you can listen to a senator's rhetoric that he's doing 5D chess and everything, but there's always some kind of gimmick behind all this, right?
Right.
I'd rather have a senator that's straightforward, that votes conservative values. I mean, I spent a lot of time. I went for like 2 or 3 days to Pendleton, Oregon to work on the GOP platform. And if anyone wants to go learn about that, go to the GOP of Oregon and go look at I think it's About Us is on the website. And then it'll have the platform. And it's about 18 pages, but it breaks down 18 platforms. And we went through a lot of trouble. There was people from all counties that were represented, and we voted on this. And it's not being followed by our senators or representatives. They just aren't. And if they're not, we got to hold their feet to the fire. And those are the values that we, the people, want. But they don't want to do it because they're influenced with money from outside money in their campaigns. And if we just stand up and have enough momentum with the people by sending in the letters, that's a positive thing. Making sure it's documented what we stand for. And then that is what we hold them accountable for. I've been really upset with Senator Brock Smith. I've only treated him respectful. I even helped his campaign.
Me too.
And I feel really betrayed that when you point something out to him and say, hey, why didn't you just answer the question? When people have questions, they either need to be answered. And when he starts to get to the point where he's bullying people, he threatened me on the phone when I said, hey, you look really bad being on the Oregon China Council because it's all WEF and UN agenda. It's spelled in black and white on it. And so I told him, I says, why don't you get off of it? Well, I've distanced myself. I've decided to go to Taiwan instead this year. And I says, why don't you get off of it? And he just, it was frustrating because I said, I've always told my kids, if you want to get marked by someone, if you're around the wrong crowd or doing with the wrong people,
Right.
you're marked. And he didn't want to get off. And some of those people that are on that board are flat out commies. They've been on propaganda videos made by China, and they're all great. They think the collectivism is great. And how many people know what collectivism is? It's communism. Right. They take away your land, your rights, and you work as a slave. So
and somehow they think that's fair because then we're all stakeholders in the same game. But the fact is you're a working woman. I'm a working man. We have businesses. You have a businesses, and people who've actually created stuff. We realize that there is a group of people in society who don't go out there and produce or even care to produce the same way we do. They don't have any initiative to do better in their professions. Even if you don't own a business, I always told my kid, I don't care if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's, be the best worker that you can be. Do the best that you can and strive to always be better. And yet there seems to be this segment of society that's
I don't understand. My dad said everyone's expendable. You work yourself out of a job. So you're actually training people what your job is so that you better yourself so you can go to another higher platform.
Exactly.
And so I was really disappointed in him when he didn't like what I had to say, and he knew I wouldn't back off because, I'm kind of like a dog with a bone. If I've got a fact and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it and why I'm getting accused for something, he didn't like me pursuing more information. And all the information I found about him was online.
And before you go any further, let's put the background to this. Let me explain to people that I did the interview. Me and Diane Rich did an interview with David Brock Smith where he thought he was treated unfairly when I think the interview was just fine. We were trying to get him to quiet down because he doesn't stop talking. He was filibustering, and we were trying to get him to go back to the questions because I thought he was lying to us. I know he was lying to us about HB 3375, the windmill bill. And so he called you the next day, and that's what you're talking about right now, is that he got mad at you because somehow he thinks you're the ringleader ruling over me and Diane.
He thought I was going to run against him. And, it's this word salad. This just a bit of that conversation is, if you do not back off and going after me, because I know you're the leader, that's what he said. And he said that you are the problem. So he started attacking me. And I said, David, all you have to do is refute it in writing. You've got all sorts of connections to refute this. But the thing is you should have addressed the problem. And then I said, look at the UN agenda. He says, well, I've never seen that before. Let's look at it. And then he started breaking it down to me to trying to find some commonality with me out of the 17 UN sustainable things that's on there. It's a multicolored, it looks like a periodic table.
Right.
He's like, out of the 17, he liked pretty much about 14 of them. He says some of them are questionable. And I said, I don't care. Our platform with the GOP says we are against any globalism, UN, WEF. So why are you making such a big deal? Anything to do with this sustainable, it could be just a couple words, but it's not just a couple words. It's the detail behind each of those little colored blocks for social engineering. And he gets going, and it's a word salad. It goes on, and I. It is not a good character to say everything I do this, I do that, I do that. For a senator, bullying is not a very good character. turning around and attacking businesses. And I'll talk about the attacking, but for you not to address your people like you are a servant to the people, he doesn't act that way. And we've already seen how Boyce is all of a sudden acting like I'm a servant to you guys right now because he wants to get elected, and he's a pretty smart politician. But the thing is the bullying, not sticking to the platform that the party that he's in, and he, you know, he didn't like what he got out of me, so he sent his chief of staff to talk to me for an hour, and he thought maybe a woman's touch would do it. And I said,
right.
I didn't, you know, I stood my ground. I says, we're still not getting answers from you. And then like the next day or the day after, he goes to my dad's house. My dad's only maybe saw him once, right when he started running as a representative a long time ago. He invites himself over to my dad's house. And then he threatens my dad that if he can't control his daughter, that he was going to go after me. I will never have a political career. He will sick the wolves on my family. My dad happens to have his company, which I do have a majority shareholder. I'm fully transparent. And he has the least title.
We lost your volume, Denesa. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Hear me now?
There you go.
Sorry, I had a call coming. He threatened our company and out in the North Spit, and that's where the container yard would go in if they get the funding for it.
Right.
And you know, it's this threatening situation. And also, I don't think David did his homework, because my dad has been very integral in school choice, which is a huge platform right now for the Republicans. He was one of the biggest ones for that initiative. And
I think it's one of the most important issues, because we're talking about the next generations of kids who are going to grow up. And if we don't give them alternatives to the indoctrination of public schools, we are seriously in trouble. And I think that school choice is the number one issue that we should be concerned about.
well, he's attacking both. Well, our greatest resources is our kids. Our next one is our natural resources. And he's made a muck of it. I mean, why would you do what you did with this Elliot Forest? Why would you know, taking away the funding for our local schools? He's not helping. He's not helping the people in his district, who is, most of them are conservative. Was about 60% here in Coos County.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think he's cloaking himself with his decorations to show that I'm a big Republican, and honestly, he's not. And if he would have just answered the questions, he couldn't answer it very well, because he did take a lot of money from a rich San Francisco Democrat hedge fund director.
Right.
So, and
who made most of his money? Let's put this out there. This is Thomas Tuttle, who made most of his money in Asia, and specifically China.
Yeah. Well, I just wish if we can get a senator in there that, you know, kids are supposed to look up to people of respect. Okay. I would
Right.
not respect him as, I don't, he's not respecting his people. How do you gain respect? You listen and you do what your people want. And he's not doing that. And then to turn around and threaten and everything. We feel like I got a hold of a snake, and
Yeah.
he won't. I can't let him down because he's going to bite me.
Right.
So
Right.
Anyway.
Let me hold on. Let me play a clip because this happened at the Republican meeting this
Oh
past
yeah.
month. Let me play this clip for you. I didn't know we were recording.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And so actually it is because I don't trust you to cut and paste anything and use it later. And so please stop recording me. Thank you.
I disagree.
Will you please stop recording me as well?
I disagree because you've already slandered me and my dad's family in front of 140 people at the Douglas County.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Okay, well, I'm not going to allow you to intimidate me by any means, but
Go ahead and speak. This is transparent.
it is actually. But you two individuals will try to use it and cut it and put it in a video or whatever.
That's what press does.
You're not the press.
Well, that's because of you.
You're my opponent's campaign manager.
Absolutely.
And anyway, so now you know the fighting within, folks.
I can't stop it.
Well, no, it's fine. So I do want to say that I am happy to have my record talked about, but I really will push back when you lie about it. And when you sit there and you want to spread misinformation, when you want to, Diane Rich, go have meetings and say that I was forced to give my England Marine check back because they wanted it back, is a lie. And
It was untrue, and guess what? It was a question. Again, David, you misunderstand.
No, it wasn't.
People can ask a question. I noticed in the Secretary of State filings that England Marine had returned the $5,000 donation to him. And I asked my friend, Leonard Krug, at the Oregon Anglers Association if he knew anything about it. That's all I did. Is that okay with you, Dave?
well,
Okay.
what got back to me was that there was a group of people that you met with, and you said that I was forced to give it back because they wanted it back. So I am good to go when it comes to defending my record. I have a 68.68% CPAC record. So he made a statement. He made a speech at a meeting in Roseburg at the Douglas Republican Party, where he actually brought you and your family up and maligned your family and maligned your family's business in front of, I don't know, 100 or so people. What kind of senator does that? What kind of message is he sending? That just blew my mind because I have never seen this happen, Denesa. I have never seen a senator go after someone the way he's gone after me, Diane, and you specifically. And now to go after, bring in your dad's business, a man who is a pillar of the community, who's invested all kinds of money into charitable organizations, and he's treating you like this.
All I can say, I was shocked that he went that far. And he keeps saying misinformation. That's a classic Democrat that's been going on. And he keeps using their playbook in everything he's doing. And he wants to divide and conquer. He's to split the party. Going back to my dad has helped with donations to most major universities in this state. SWAC, Oregon State, Portland State, or University of Oregon. He's helped with some of these church schools. He's helped with the Cartwheels as a preschool. We've helped with the house. We've helped with 4-H. We've helped with Boy Scouts. The money that we do, and also we've helped bail out the GOP when Dallas Hurd was there.
Right.
And has helped major candidates get in. Is he just jealous he didn't get any of my dad's money because he didn't think he was reputable? I don't understand this, but he just went after one of the biggest supporters in this state that is helping with conservative causes, and he just tossed it to the wind.
Yeah.
On top of, when he goes and talks in Roseburg about my dad's company that he started from scratch. I grew up in the middle class, way down low, okay? He has built chemical plants all around the world. And he branded our company in that meeting as we deal, and that's where we get all our money is from the CCP. We do not deal with the CCP. In fact, it's a very small portion of our total business. He didn't know, he didn't get the facts. He has no idea what we do out there. But I feel he sabotaged our company. We don't do business in Roseburg, okay? But I wanted the people out there to know. And I gave letters to all the PCPs that basically I had to, because I'm a minority shareholder, I had to get the information from my dad about our company that he missed. I mean, I played the whole thing. Someone videoed it. And we could have sued him, but it's not worth it.
Right.
All I have to do is tell the PCPs, hopefully they're going to tell their constituents that who they represent, their neighbors. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I can tell you that we were very much misrepresented by David Brock Smith because he's mad that he's having to spend some of his money to do damage control, which he created the damage.
He created the damage, and not only that, you just said this a minute ago. He is the one who is actually splitting the Republican Party, but yet he's accusing us. He's accusing you, me, and Diane of being the ones who are splitting the party that we wanted to, and Michaela, and even the candidate Todd Vaughn, that we are the ones who are trying to destroy the Republican Party. He's actually gone out and said that we want to create this America First Party, which I've never even heard of this idea of creating an America First Party. And he says that we are the ones who are trying to divide the party, and that's why we're going after him. And so he's playing the victim, which is odd because he's the one who's in authority. He's the one who's abusing that authority, and he's the one who created the problem. And now he's trying to flip it around and make you and me look like the antagonizers and that we're the ones who are being the bullies.
He's done everything in the playbook of the Democrats. He's gone after the local press. Now he just divided the party so we're not united. He's done everything that he's been told to do. Now he's going after the major contributors of the party, the ones that are not bought and paid for by foreign entities. Right. We're the grassroots of this state. And I wish people would get behind people that are, I don't care if they're blue collar workers, ones that aren't going to be deceptive, are going to be straight shooter, vote their party lines and hold their ground. They're compromising all over the map. And and the thing is what we're compromising is giving the heart of our state away.
Yeah.
And, and
it's sad. And it's sad that it's coming from a senator that you and I once supported. I used to call him my friend. He was, not only did we support him, he was one of I got a family business here. We're a coffee roaster. And when he ran the restaurant, Port Starboard, his family, they were one of our coffee accounts. They were one of our first coffee accounts. So not only, were we friends, we were in business together. And now all of a sudden, because I had some questions, some inquiries on what he was doing, and he wasn't willing to answer those questions, he's willing to burn all those bridges and burn what your father has done and what you have done. And I'm just blown away that there are not more people who are just completely upset that you have a senator abusing his authority like this.
This is not how a senator should act.
No.
The bullying, the intimidation. He noticed in that meeting, he says, "Oh, I'm not going to be intimidated." You know,
Yeah.
I had to film it because this meeting that you just showed, that was at the Coos County GOP, and it was a meeting. It was an open meeting with Monique Despain, and so he had to bring his whole entourage of people with him, both
Hmm.
Boyce and Brock Smith and Boomer all showed up, even though it wasn't their gig. And then we found out that he did allow, because they had all those other people there, Todd Vaughn to speak. But I had to film it because I think he was going to do the same thing again. And he was too afraid of me getting it on tape.
Right.
And that was my only line of defense, was to film it. And quite honestly, every single person in that room, if they were recording it, just like what you're doing, you're a podcast. You are the news. You created your own news.
Right.
I could do a podcast on this, and Diane can, and Todd can. We don't have a legitimate news anymore. It is from word of mouth of people. I consider myself, I should get press credentials just like you could.
Right.
Because there is no legitimate journalist. Did you see any journalists from the news, the newspaper there?
I didn't see a single one journalist. Nobody was reporting on this. And Monica Despain, she's running against Val Hoyle. You would have thought that there would have been a news station or a newspaper, something. And once again, we're attacked because you're not journalist. Well, what defines a journalist? It doesn't define it in the Constitution.
I could have wrote an editorial and put it in the newspaper of what happened.
Damn right.
And this is where, I want people to take away from this. Do something. You don't have to do all of it. Just write something. Write something. Go to a protest about this. Find something. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one that's trying to go up against the grain. And some people, we just think we don't need to do any work. I have 4 businesses, at least, maybe 5 businesses that I have to manage. And I still get out there and spend the time to go to BOC meetings. That's Board of Commissioner meetings. They're every other week on Tuesdays. And I understand what's going on. And so do you. You've gone to those meetings. And if you can't make them, you can get on the Zoom call. People need, how many people come in and what's going on, Denesa? And it's like, I'm the word of mouth a lot of times because no one takes enough time out of their schedule to go help figure out things themselves. So please,
one of
out there.
the guys in the chat room, he just said that we have no newspapers here, meaning that even the newspapers that are here aren't really news. And yeah, it's we really don't have a press. We don't have people who are getting this information out because they're just not out there.
And that's why I sponsored you for as long as I have. And I'm going to put it right out there. I know God called me to go to January 6th. I was in Washington, D.C. I took some friends. I saw it. I witnessed it. There was God-fearing people, working class people there that got caught up in a show.
Yeah.
And it was meant to make us look bad. And it made us out to be, I was so mad that when I turned on that TV and people called me a domestic terrorist, when I'd been up since 5:30, standing on my feet to watch Trump, and there was no bathrooms, we couldn't eat, because there was no bathrooms available at all. I mean, whatever there was, they were totally full before the people even got there. It was chaos, and this is what they want to do. Chaos. What do they say? They think they can create order out of chaos. So there's all these individuals that they keep creating chaos to divide us. And the only way we can do this is we have to think things out and know who we can trust. and get out there and do something. Just do something. I don't
Something.
care if, yes, please vote. Go registered Republican so we can get Trump across the threshold. Go do something.
And you know, ever since this incident, I've been a non-affiliated voter, and I am so intent on trying to save the Senate, what we have left in the Senate, the senators that walked out. I'm going to be switching to Republican. Yeah, those guys are heroes.
They're heroes.
And look, David Brock Smith wasn't even one of those heroes. David Brock Smith didn't even walk out, and yet he's acting like anyone who questions him is the bad guy when he didn't even have the cojones to walk out of that building. And I'm going to register as a Republican. I haven't yet. I've told you I plan on doing that. And we're going to do some cleaning. I think it's time to clean some house.
And I think I'm going to be at Pony Village. Not Pony Village, the Mill Casino for the national chairman and woman for Oregon. It is really hard to get through the weeds to know who is, who's actually for the people and who's out for their own pocketbook or whatever they got aligned. There's a lot of people that sold their soul, sold out.
Right.
And us people are going to pay the price if we do not do something about it.
Oh,
And
right.
I'm not saying guns per se. Right now, it's a matter of getting enough volume of people to stand up and let people know that what we're going to vote, no matter what's going on. We're going to be vigilant. And I did observing. I did a lot of observing. I observed outside and inside of our election process.
You nearly got arrested. I remember that night. And it was all a bunch of BS. They actually framed you. She invited you in so that she could get you arrested. I love that. They won't arrest people here who are committing crimes, but they'll arrest you.
Well, I know that they were in there doing their own thing with the signature verification, and it was two chairmen, the Democrat chairs that were in there on election night when there was the most ballots of our whole ballot. That's when the most volume of ballots are right at election night.
That's right. That night, right.
And I came in there, honestly, I don't know why. I keep God's put me in these places to witness. And I've seen the appointed clerk swear in one of the mules from out of Abandon after she delivered the ballots. Now, I don't think that's right. If you're going to have someone work for you, you've got to swear them in first and then not let them do the damage. But she swore in afterwards. I saw it. I saw her do it all and swear in and sign on the dotted line. I've seen so many things that, quite honestly, I couldn't have been in the right spot every time like that.
I think it's because of your dedication. I think it's because of your dedication and the fact that you made the time, you took the effort to go through with that stuff, and we all appreciate it. We all appreciated what you were doing because, like you said, there's a lot of people who, for one reason or another, just can't get out there, or they choose not to get out there, and you were able to be at the scene because you took that extra effort. We appreciate it.
I've seen it outside. I ran surveillance of the mules for multiple days.
You got a lot of heat for that.
I got a lot of heat, but I read the rules. I read that sign that was posted outside those ballot boxes. I never took a picture of one person putting their ballot away. I waited till Harry Potter showed up by himself on a Halloween, picking up the ballots by himself. When our county commissioner told us that she was going to have two people at the League of Voters Women, she's committed to it, and then she didn't do it. And then when I pitched a fit at the BOC meeting, All of a sudden, things changed.
Yep.
And things, I can tell you some of the activism stuff that I've done, but, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I've put my neck out on the line on a lot of it.
That was, but you're absolutely right. Melissa Cribbins, and it wasn't, she didn't do that just at the League of Women Voters. She made that promise at the commissioners meeting before the election took place. And then and in fact, I think even John Sweet had made that promise. There was a couple of the commissioners who had said the same thing. They were going to have 2 people designated to pick up those ballots, and that never happened.
And most people don't know because they don't listen to the news or look for them themselves. But
Right.
But our election process, we had 2 married couples working our election. What the heck?
Yeah.
And one of them was a super progressive, and the other one, one worked at the jail when there was a measure for the jail levy for the jails on the ballot. I mean, this is a conflict of interest.
Right. And we know, and since the 2020 election, and you've seen the videos of them actually finding people, I forget which city it was, and it was Democrats catching other Democrats doing ballot harvesting, where they showed the lady who worked for the elections office actually stuffing the ballot boxes full of ballots. We've seen this happen, 2,000 Mules, where they proved that there were people specifically going to these ballot boxes and shoving in all these ballots from people who were maybe or were maybe not eligible to vote. Like Thomas Tuttle, who's voting in Oregon and voting in California.
There's, and when people say this is about good versus evil, okay, if you've lost your consciousness and you think it's okay to vote twice, that's bad.
That's bad.
I mean, it's bad. It's in the laws, but they know no one prosecutes them. It's like, I know I was at that election, and one of the hired workers at Coos County was a witch, a satanic witch. She had pentagram earrings. She had an evil eye. Her nails were painted, and and it wasn't even Halloween. Let me put it that way, okay? Who hires that kind of people to run your elections?
Yeah. And I hate to, because I think people have the right to do that if they want, but you're right. Why would you hire someone who, it's like the devil worshipers. And I've had a devil worshiper on the show. It's like, how can I trust someone who actually worships the devil? You worship the most greatest deceiver that was ever created. If you believe in the devil or not, this guy still worships the greatest deceiver that was ever created. And why would I trust anything you say?
We are being deceived. It's just like our Super Bowl. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's already orchestrated. We just have to fight the good fight. And that means we got to try to hold people accountable for their actions. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go right back to David Brock Smith. He is not being held accountable for his actions. And the people shouldn't be going after us. They should be going after David Brock Smith. Unless they're complacent in what's going on. Even though when the party votes for what everyone was in agreement at that platform, we agreed on something. And he's actually brags about his 68% CPAC rating. Do you know we're not getting federal funds from the GOP because we don't have any candidates that have enough balls to have a conservative standard?
They should, you had to put your name on the Constitution. Back when they wrote the Constitution, they had to sign that document. They had to sign the Declaration of Independence. I don't know why we don't have them sign the party platform.
They're supposed to sign after they swear in their oath, they're supposed to sign also the oath of their the Constitution and the Oregon Constitution. And I'm
Well,
going to
he
tell you,
did do that.
well,
I
the thing
did see that.
well, if you look at if hey, this is homework now. The homework is go to Article 2 in the Oregon Constitution, Section 22, 1 through 4. It was a citizens initiative. That means that is our free speech to this is in 1993 that it was put into our Oregon Constitution. Basically, you can't take more than 10% foreign money, or it's a unclassified felony, which I already talked to an attorney, and the attorney says that's not a lot of teeth for a felony. But that was voted on by the people. The people went and got the ballots, and I mean, they filled out their little initiatives, and it finally got on to the ballot, and then it got voted in. But they're not agreeing to it. But they are agreeing to the mail-in ballots, which was done by a citizens initiative. So this is, look where we have been. You know how many people have been bought off by like George Soros with our attorney generals that are up in Portland, and apparently they just got one up in Pendleton area also, by the way, just recently.
Yeah, the DA Schmidt, he was a huge receiver of that money, and now it's lawlessness in Portland.
And we also have all this Pfizer money, all these. It can't be state or federal money. It doesn't count. It's outside businesses and site like unions, like the Federated Teachers Union of the nation. From Washington D.C. They're give money out. These PACs are just a lot of them are a big laundry machine for money. So you don't know where it's actually coming from. So
one PAC gives to another PAC that gives to another PAC that gives to an NGO. And
this is more homework for you. Get on Orstar and go under campaign financing and look it up. Go look up a Democrat versus a Republican this last election, and look at the gross amount of money that they got that could have gone to homelessness, could have gone to public safety. It could have gone there, but they're using it to say abortion is great. They won based off of the abortion issue. Can you believe that? When we have so many other issues to deal with.
Yeah.
So if you go into Orstar, research each one of your candidates and where they're getting their money.
And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Orstar is the financial app that's on the Secretary of State's website where you can look up your candidates, you can look up your manuals, you can look up financing for the candidates, for the Political Action Committee, and you can look up the donations. In fact, that's how we found out that David Brock Smith was receiving over $100,000, $150,000 from a man named Thomas Tuttle, who is a Democrat from San Francisco. This is a conservative Republican.
It's information out there that we just kept digging and digging. Just I would say at least 6 people were researching this to get the information, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. It got bigger with the ties to the chair of the Republican Party in Douglas County, and why that all those commissioners are all tied together and they don't allow public comment. It's like you don't have a say as a person in that community, about anything that passes through their commissioners right now. So they want you, dumb. Come on, just go out there. I'm on my phone all the time. You can do a lot with this phone. And I did all my research on Orstar, and I've done my research online about the Constitution. You can get it on. Yeah, you just go on there and look up the current Oregon Constitution. And part of this is people haven't been taught civics. What they should have done with every kid every kid in this state should go to the Capitol and learn how to affect change through their legislatures and
Right.
how they can work, because not very many people are, they think I'm just small, I can't do anything. Well, that's BS. And it's a
Right.
matter of being lazy and not finding out for themselves, you know, what HB stands for and SB stands for, and where to look up the bills,
Right.
and where they're at, and what the financial cost of these things are, or where you can make comment online for each of the testimony for each of these bills before they get voted on. People just have to take a little bit
You,
of time.
yeah, you got a fan out there. Ashley Hicks says, "Thank you, Denesa."
Well, you're welcome. You know, I'm going to tell you, I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't know half of this stuff probably a year and a half ago.
How could you? I mean, until you go out and educate yourself, most of us think we know. And then when we start learning more and more about it, it's a matrix. It's, you know what I mean? It's a matrix of information that you think you kind of got your handle on it. And then you learn a little bit more and you realize, wow, there's so much more to it than I ever knew. And then you got to learn the history of what happened. It's a lot of information. It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. But I've been involved in 4-H and Boy Scouts, and I'm going to say, I like 4-H for certain reasons, and I like Boy Scouts for certain reasons. And part of it was they had a government. They had to learn their global and their local government and their state government. And they had to learn this stuff. They had to go to a city. How many people? Raise your hand if you've been to a city council meeting or a commissioner meeting or gone to the Capitol. I didn't do most of that stuff until the last 2 years. So you can still do it at any age. But the thing is, it's best for the young kids to learn that, they have a say. They can speak. They can get on the agenda. There's public comment times. If you want a skate park with lighting or something of that nature, go and get on the agenda. And go have a talk and tell them why it's a public safety thing. That's just one little change that little kids can do.
I would imagine anyone under 20, the commissioners would be thrilled to listen to, because anyone under 20 is like an aberration in the commissioner's office or the city council. I'm near 60, Denesa, and I'm usually the youngest guy in the room. So you get someone in there under 20, they actually will probably listen to you.
Well,
and I encourage it.
A lot of these kids start doing leadership, like government leadership in the schools, But the thing is, they haven't gone out to their communities. They got to get out into their communities to see real change. And like 4-H, I really liked it because the kids had to learn what expenses and income mean. And so does our senators. They got to understand our budgets have to be balanced. We need to be audited. People need to be able to be transparent with our books. Tell me, when's the last time we had a pot audit or a alcohol audit or all these sin taxes that the lottery? How much money has actually come into our budget because we allowed all those sins in by voting for them? We voted for them. So where's the accountability of it? So
that's
anyway,
a good question.
People need to ask those questions. I think you're kind of the king of the freedom. Was the FOIA request?
Yeah,
I didn't know how to do that.
Gosh, I've done a lot. Yeah,
I know you have.
And by the way, there's different kinds. If you're doing it federal, it's a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and if you're doing it locally, it's a public records request. And if you want to do a public records request, you've got to go to the agency, because the school board for the Coos Bay School District will give you a different form than the city of Coos Bay. And people don't realize it. It's not all the same forms, and you've got to fill it out the way that they have it designed for you. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask those questions.
This is just like, I'm gonna kind of do an analogy here. I didn't know how to can. I had to have a friend show me how to can because it wasn't passed on to me. So it's a matter of taking time to learn something new. And this is affecting your taxes. It's affecting your health care. It's affecting your property rights. It's affecting your safety. It's affecting, there's this a ton of things, right now, everything. And if you want to sit back and think this is all going to be taken care of for you, you guys, we're going to be in communism faster than you know it.
Right. And they don't take care of you in communism. It's way worse.
And there's no checks and balances. And really know what a fascist is versus a communist. Because a lot of people don't even know that. Because they don't have any. I'm going to tell you, I went to North Bend. You know how much U.S. history I got and how much European history I got? I probably got 7-8 weeks of that. Because they were changing to geography. Just kind of doing maps and understanding cultures and that kind of stuff. That's globalism. Yeah. We didn't get our history of our Constitution, and the Magna Carta. We didn't learn a lot of this stuff. That was basic stuff that now look where we're at. We just aren't. They've dumbed us down really, really bad. And now we're finding out we are paying the price, and we're going to be continuing to pay the price because change doesn't happen fast. No, this is slow.
No,
this is
and
very slow process.
They've been entrenched in our schools and our public bureaucracies for a long time. Denesa, before I get you out of here, is there anything you'd like to tell everyone or a message you'd like to send out there?
The message is hold your senators and your representatives accountable, and know that bullying is not normal. Telling people they're liars and misinformation and telling us a bunch of words and changing what words mean. That's not something we want in office. We want someone that's going to stand for something and actually stand for it.
Right.
So thank you very much
Thank you
for having
being
me on.
And
thank you. I appreciate it. You are a huge service to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care, Denesa.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. And, I always enjoy talking. She's always got good stuff to say. Like she said, she's one of those people that sponsors me, and I appreciate having that. And one of the other people who sponsors me is 3H Tree Service. Those guys have been very supportive of this show, and I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate these guys. They are a group of people who have always had my back, and I just could never find anyone to replace them. And I'll go even further. There's another gentleman by the name of Matt Wilbanks. He's also someone who's always had my back, and he's going to be leaving soon. He's with the Coos County Neighborhood Watch, and I don't know how we're going to replace him. We're not going to be able to. I don't even know if we're going to be able to fill that void. But him and these guys from 3H Tree Service, very good friends of mine. We've been doing a lot of incredible work together, and I appreciate their support. Tom and Giggs, Tim over in Tom and Giggs, Shanna, always great people. Always done a wonderful service over there. If you need to get your rig fixed, Tom and Giggs is the place to go. I couldn't recommend anyone higher than Tom and Giggs. I've gotten their service, and I've always been satisfied. Also out there is Oregon Firearms Federation. Kevin Starrett has always been a huge supporter. I've known him for almost 20 years now, and the man is solid as a rock. You could have gone to this, you could have gone to Kevin Starrett 20 years ago, and he would still be having the same message and same convictions 20 years ago as he has today. He's been a constant. I appreciate everything he has done for me. I appreciate the fact that he's always been a big supporter of mine, and I've always been a big supporter of him and what he's done. And Alex, if you're out there still listening, thank you. You know, I do a podcast because many times in my life there were things I wanted to know, a lot of questions. I always have questions, especially about our government, especially about what's happening in our society. And I don't like what I see today. And, you know, I thought, why not get a radio show? That's why I started my radio show. That's why I got on with Jim Bice as a co-host, and then moved on to being a host of my own, was because I wanted to be able to spread this information. And I knew I didn't live in Washington, D.C. I don't live in Salem. Where do I live? I live here in Coos County. I love you, Coos County. And we're going to continue because you are what's important to me. You're my neighbors. You're my friends. You're my family. And I'm going to continue spreading this information as far and wide as I can go. They just had a meeting at North Bend. And a lot of people were going to show up to this meeting at North Bend. It happened at 4:30. It's probably close to being over with now. And one of the things they were going to discuss was the money they were going to get to the Devereaux Center. Well, before you get mad at North Bend about giving money to the Devereaux Center, all they're doing is giving money that they have already received. They're just approving that money. And the reason they're doing that is because it gives the city more authority over the Devereaux Center. From what I heard Friday night, David Milliron, who a man I've actually criticized quite often, but he did the right thing on Friday night. He really dug into Tara Reed Johnson and told her that if he could, he'd shut that place down, and that she needs to clean her act up. She needs to make sure that she has rules and enforces those rules. And now, because the city controls the money, all right, and I should say not just the city, but the cities, Coos Bay, North Bend, and the county, they're all combined together with the homeless response team. They're the ones who are giving money to the Devereaux Center. The city of Coos Bay is going to own that building that the Devereaux Center is moving to. Because that's happening, they're going to have more authority over what happens at those facilities. Right now, the Devereaux Center is a private entity in the Empire neighborhood. I don't know if you like the idea of switching the Devereaux Center from Empire over to the Coal Bank Slough area, the Coal Bank Villages. I don't know if that's a better idea or a worse idea, but we got to stop enabling these derelicts of society. And if the city can get a handle on that, then that would be a good thing. I don't know if it's going to happen. To be quite honest with you, I think all this stuff should be done through charities and churches. There's plenty of charitable people out there who would be willing to help these people, and I don't think it should come from my tax dollars or your tax dollars. And so we can argue that at another time, another day. But I want to thank you for tuning in, and I hope all of you have gone out to that meeting, but I want to thank you all for tuning in today. We're going to have another great show next week. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be, but I'll tell you what, I've been trying to get some really good heavy hitter guests. And maybe we'll fix that sound eventually. Damn, I've been having the problem with that sound. But you know, that's the way it goes on these live streamings. And so until next week, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.